What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back for another album review. I told you guys that I had another one in the works for the weekend, and while the weekend is over, doesn't mean that I can't pump out this review for you guys, as I am reviewing an album that came out this past Friday that I was needing to get to sooner, but I was busy with other things, but I managed to get around to it now. The latest album from Polish death metal, blackened death metal, whatever you want to call them, masters, Hate, with Rugia, their brand new album on Metal Blade Records. So a little brief history lesson about the band Hate. They formed back around, I think, around 1991 in Poland, and they started out as more of a straightforward death metal band, very much in the vein of the other Polish death metal bands that followed in the mid to late 90s, like Decapitated, Invader. But then, since the 2000s, they've really transitioned their sound more into blackened death metal in the vein of bands like fellow countrymen Behemoth as well as Belphegor. And here, this album definitely continues on that blackened death metal trend as we kick things off on this album with the title track, as it starts off with some epic, sinister build-up with the drums following suit. It then gets into a nice black metal groove for a moment before it goes full tilt death metal. The palm mute riffs that this track has are absolutely crushing. Amazing drum work behind this album. Then again, yeah, behind this whole album, there is amazing drum work. I forget the name of the drummer for this release, but man, he just is flying everywhere on the kit. There's some amazing drum work on this track behind the evil atmosphere of the tremolo riffing that's going on throughout this track, as well as throughout the entire album. And then we get a nice chaotic solo to bring this song to a close, along with like an evil marching conclusion with the beats. The Wolf Queen with track number 2, continuing that formula of starting out with some evil atmospheric parts to begin the track before it gets full-on aggressive. We get some more thrashy parts on this song with the thrash beat, and the drums really build up tension in this track. And then we get a more feeling solo on this one, and this track definitely reminded me of Behemoth. And if I start to sound like a broken record with that statement, trust me, don't say I didn't warn you. But anyways, Exiles of Pantheon, the third track, I absolutely love how the riffs and the blast beats kind of work together to start this track off, and then the build up before the blast beat sections again remind me of Behemoth, because Behemoth does that so well, where they build up moments before you get some fast riffing and fast blast beat parts. However, on this track, we slow some things down as we get a breakdown on this track, but you get some insane double bass playing going on during the breakdown, and then we get another tasty solo, a little bit more melodic on this one to kind of bring this song to a close. Saturnus, we get another slow beginning with the riffs, but the double bass just flies everywhere. Then we even get a little halftime on this track with some notable bass moments. Now, this is probably one of the only songs on the album where the bass definitely has a presence. I'll talk more about it when I get towards the end here. But yeah, some cool bass licks before the speed picks up a bit, and then we get some Slayer-esque or Kerry King style dive bomb squealy solos like that. Like just going all the time, which it works for this song because it's meant to be a bit more chaotic towards the end. More thrash moments, and then we get a second solo, and it's a much better solo, a little darker, again, a little bit more melody, and then it concludes with a marching blast beat and the tremolo riffing that you would associate with black metal. And then we get to the middle track of the album, Awakening the Gods Within. Now, we get some more Behemoth-inspired parts to kind of start this one off with some evil, clean riffing before the blast beats and the chaos really take hold. This is probably the most black metal inspired song of the album because we get some mayhem inspired riffing and even gets into a bit of a Dark Throne groove, but briefly on this song. This was up to this point maybe my favorite song of the album just because like it started off Behemoth-esque and then we get some black metal riffing and like the like not quite a thrash beat, a little bit faster than that, but it's like the D beat black metal style, which I call the black metal blast. And then, you know, the mayhem riffing, some Dark Throne grooves. Yeah, this song had a lot of black metal going on top of it. The only thing that I think prevents it from being black metal was the vocals. The vocals on this album are still very, very death metal. Then we get into the second half of the album with Resurgence. It starts off with more of that mayhem-inspired riffing, but it gets epic real quickly. And then it starts getting into some rhythmic grooves with the bass and the drums, very similar to a band like Gojira, for example. And this song goes back and forth between the epic black metal build-up and the more complex rhythms that you get on this track. And then it even has some Decapitated-esque grooves with the riffing before and the blasts before the drums kind of slow things down. And then we get some more epic tremolo riffing to bring this song to a close. Velocin Guard. Now this one is kind of like the perfect contrast to Awakening the Gods Within, whereas Awakening the Gods Within was the most black metal inspired song. Here with Velocin Guard, it's very death metal inspired. Well, it starts off a bit more melodeath-ish with the riffs and the build-up, but then it gets into some Morbid Angel and Immolation inspired riffing and rhythms. And then it even has moments that remind me of At the Gates a little bit with the melodic riffs and the thrash beats. I overall love the more melodic and more death metal approach that this song has. This was a true highlight of the album for me personally, and probably now up to this point, my favorite song of the album. But man, this album is just packed full of cut after cut after cut. Son of Extinction, I would argue this was the most progressive, or proggy, whatever you want to say, the most progressive song of the album because it starts off with some more of the Gojira influence, then it gets into some more tremolo riffing and double bass, but then I hear some Mastodon-inspired riffs coming in. So, yeah, this song definitely the most progressive song of the album for its different changes and influences it brought out. And then we get to the finale, Sacred Neeper, which starts off very Vader-esque with the thrashiness it starts with, and then it gets into some more of that Behemoth-inspired riffing and fast drumming. This was maybe the most chaotic song of the album, as we get some more of that palm-muted riffing, and then after some of the chaos, it gets into some more melodic build-up before it gets evil and chaotic to conclude the song and the album. So overall, and while this review was much shorter, and that's because this album was fairly short, about 35 minutes long, and that was what was cool about it. It was like every song, it was just short, sweet, straight to the fucking point, and just to punch you in the face like a fucking robot, like robots going super fast, like that was basically the feeling I got with this album in terms of the pacing. And the flow of the album is fantastic. Now, overall, the production was good, however, the bass did get buried at certain points on the album. Other points you could hear it shine through, but the drums, the vocals, and the guitars kind of overshadowed the bass on the album for the most part to me. But I love all the different elements that this album had. You got a lot of black metal riffing, insane death metal drumming, and even some melodic death metal parts, and some progressive moments on a couple of tracks. Definitely, I would say this album is better than anything that Behemoth has done post-Satanist. Like, I Loved You at Your Darkest was really good, but I felt like it wasn't quite up to snuff for Behemoth standards for my taste. This album blew I Loved You at Your Darkest completely out of the water, and it definitely feels more like classic hate, classic Blackened death metal. it just absolutely rips. For anybody who loves Blackened death metal, you will definitely love this album. I certainly did, which is why I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. The only reason why it's not higher is because of what I was talking about earlier with the bass kind of getting buried, and also a couple of tracks did get a bit formulaic for me, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a good formula to kind of base your songwriting off of. It's just, yeah, it did kind of get a bit repetitive at times with how certain tracks, it would start off similar with like an epic evil build and then just go full chaos. So, but that's not a bad thing. I just happen to notice it quite a bit. But 9 out of 10 for Rugia by Hate. What did you guys think of this album? Let me know in the comments below. Not sure what I'm going to review next, because there's a few big ones coming up here in the next couple of weeks. But until next time, horns high, and I will see you soon.